I've been using a number of generative AI tools this morning to try and distill down what it is that Baseten does. I'm going to read you one, and you can tell me, and I won't say what engine it was. Baseten provides the software and infrastructure that lets companies run AI models reliably at massive scale only once they're built. It's about being fast, stable, and cost efficient. Is that what you do? Yeah. And why did you need to raise $300 million to do it?
Yeah, well, the way we think about it is that inference is probably the largest market that will ever exist.
Yeah.
I think you see this amazing set of companies like Cursor, Bridge, Open Evidence, Notion, kind of growing with their inference workloads, and to support the scale of these massive companies, and we're just arming ourselves there. More importantly, the amount of compute that we're going to need to support this is going to be very large, and again, compute is a capital-intensive business, and that's the business we're going after.
Lots of very interesting participants in the round, and Sarah, it's great to have you back on Bloomberg Tech. I was really interested to see conviction in there, right? The size of the round, the valuation's interesting, but you're all about helping founders build up, at conviction. Why did you want to do this?
Well, I'd say this is a very secular bet for us. First, we have invested in every round of Baseten since inception, right. From my prior firm and then through conviction. And so I think $5 billion actually is a very small number.
Just say Greylock was your prior firm.
At Greylock,
and
then at Conviction, my current firm. $5 billion is a very small number compared to the opportunity ahead. I genuinely believe that, and so we're looking at the difference when we make that investment. But I think from a broader perspective, NVIDIA and Baseten and Conviction, we have the same vision for what needs to happen to enable all of these AI native startups. Inference engineering, RL as a service, the optimization of models to make them cheap and efficient to run. These are the 3 hottest jobs in AI right now. And one thing Baseten does is take these capabilities and use NVIDIA capacity, make them available to everyone rather than just the labs.
Let's talk there for a little bit, Tuhin, about, you said you're arming yourself for this opportunity in inference. NVIDIA is interested in investing, but how much do you end up using technology, competing against? Where do you see the future of what it is that you're solving for?
Yeah, look, we've been partnered with NVIDIA for almost 5 years now. They're a big part of this future. We work really, really closely with the chips they provide. We don't see them as a competition. Honestly, we think everything's kind of a rising tide, and we want to work with the biggest and best players and customers and suppliers and vendors and technologies, and NVIDIA is a big part of that.
Sarah, to that point, it's interesting the amount of news we've had around NVIDIA today, whether or not it's another, what people call circular financing deal, backing CoreWeave, buying stock, indeed talking about a CPU, and indeed we've seen Microsoft announcing yet another chip AI version for themselves too. How does this bear out? Does everyone win? Are there going to be select winners?
Well, I think so far it looks like NVIDIA is a pretty strong winner at the chip level. I do think that there are enormous investments in accelerators, particularly at DeepMind, but there are other legitimate efforts as well. And I think it all speaks to the overall demand in this market. The reason people are making these really strong investments in other chips is because they're going to go spend billions and tens of billions and hundreds of billions of dollars, trillions, if you listen to Sam, against this compute over the next decade. Right? And so I think the question of winners is the problem today is just meeting the demand. And all of these players are trying to come up with alternatives, less about cost and more about creating more supply.
I enjoyed reading about and learning about Baseten. There's a section on your website where you break down pricing, and I don't know, that might seem really mundane to both of you, but you basically have pay-as-you-go at the low end right through to enterprise-level deals. Explain that kind of strategy. We've discussed with Cursor the idea of per-desk versus pay-as-you-go. Yeah. It's actually a very interesting model.
Well, I think pay-as-you-go pricing fully aligns ourselves with our customers. So we are only making.
Who are they?
Who are our customers?
Yeah,
so think about the fastest growing AI companies in the world. So anywhere from a Bridge, Open Evidence, Cursor, Notion, Gamma, Clay, all of these are companies that you've covered, I'm sure, over the last year. These companies are growing incredibly fast, and they are using a lot of inference. And by aligning ourselves on a pay-as-you-go model. We only make money, when they are getting value out of the models that they are training for their customers. And so that's actually a very important part of our business. We think it's a very important part of the ecosystem. And it's all about being a long-term partner to the best companies in the world.
And Sarah, what gives you the confidence that this doesn't get commoditized, or at least how sticky are the customers when it comes to inference?
I think training is a job-by-job sort of buy, right? Inference has the stickiest characteristics of any business I've ever seen, right? And so, without giving specifics, the NDR on Baseten is through the roof. And we see customers, they come with us, they scale with us. They don't want to take on this enormous engineering burden of, these different specializations I described. Like,
yes.
The labs want the kernel engineers too. They're very expensive. Managing across 10 different clouds is very expensive. Owning your own capacity. Ed was just talking with Tuhin about the pay-as-you-go versus the CapEx upfront model. The application winners, they don't want that. They want to go after new business and creating value for users.
There's a lot of energy in your industry still. It's really cool to have you both here in person. Deal flow hasn't slowed down at all. I wondered what the talent story is right now. Sarah was talking about the 3 kind of core roles, hottest jobs. I'm assuming that a chunk of that 300 million reflects the capital intensity of talent right now as well.
Yeah, look, we've been very lucky to be able to attract really great talent up until now. That being said, as Sarah said earlier, like the folks that we are going after are very, very in demand. There is, if you think about inference being this massive market and this big systems engineering and kernel engineering problem that needs to be solved, and probably there's, sub 1,000 people in the world who've solved this at scale. Yes, it is going to be very aggressive, and to win the ultimate prize for us, which is being the inference cloud, the AWS for inference.
Big target to have.
It's a big target to have, and we need to be able to get that talent.
Sarah, I also know you as kind of Sarah the operator, not necessarily just writing checks. We've been talking about, is circular financing a bad word, for example, with NVIDIA and CoreWeave, but is there an opportunity here for you to look at the rest of your portfolio and your historic investments and say to some of these companies, you guys should work together? What's the reality of that?
Well, I'd say Baseten does have a lot of customers they've won within the portfolio. And one of the things that we do at small scale that's very related to this NVIDIA move of enabling its ecosystem and its customers is have an incubator.
Right.
Baseten is a contributor to that. They give credits to startups. They're offering their expertise to these companies. We give people compute up front as well. And it's to reduce the barrier to entry for the next generation of application companies. This program is called Embed. And I think our entire investment is we want to see more of these AI native application companies win, which Baseten does and NVIDIA does too.